Hello there. There's a fresh group in town, the new Traffickers, destined to open the doors for all. Well, I suspected that Labour would prove to be worse than the Tories, and this latest policy bombshell has confirmed that. Basically, Keir Starmer has said he will strike an agreement with Brussels so that we could return those coming across in rubber boats to France, in exchange for accepting a quota of all those that illegally enter the European Union. I wonder if it'll end up being the same people. So nothing much will change then, except we'll need a new fleet of ferries, of course. It will be interesting to see how he frames this tomorrow when he is expected to lay out his plans, but from what I've read in the press, it seems that those who wish to come here will be able to apply from within the EU by some means or other, and then be ferried across to us in exchange for us sending any that come by boat, and we send them back to mainland Europe. Starmer also said he would get tough with the people traffickers by treating them as terrorists and freezing their assets and placing restrictions on their movements. Does that mean we already know exactly who they are, where they are, and we're doing nothing about it? Or is this just Starmer rhetoric? And he intends to drop the Rwanda scheme in order to spend the money on some sort of new task force. And he told The Times that the first job is to secure the borders and make sure we are the ones determining who comes into this country. It looks to me like that job will be outsourced to the European Union. And he also said that those who aren't entitled to be here should be returned and returned quickly. Good luck with that one, given that many of them will have ditched their papers into the English Channel and the courts won't let you do it anyway. And I don't doubt for a moment that Starmer will also pledge to remain in the ECHR and keep the Human Rights Act intact as is. And that alone will stymie any plans he has to return just about anyone, even if he does change the law. The Tories tried that one and got trounced at every turn. And if the numbers of little boat crossings started to dwindle, you can bet any deal Starmer makes with the EU will involve the UK taking a continued fair share of all those who enter the EU in an irregular manner on a permanent basis. Something we'll be stuck with for all time. In fact, I wouldn't put it past him to join the EU's new 30,000 quota for all member states, or pay €20,000 for every one that you do not take. Meaning if you take none, you pay the EU central pot €600 million. And if he does, the number of people tempted to make the dangerous journey across the Mediterranean will only increase. But there will still be many who either know their application to come to the UK will fail, suspect it will fail, or have been unsuccessful. What exactly do you think those people will do? The same pressure to get into a little boat will be there, the same pressure to rid themselves of any irksome paperwork, and the same pressure on the French authorities to make their leaving the beaches as painless as possible, and the same RNLI and Border Force ready and willing to bring them over, and the same lawyers and judges using the same ECHR and Human Rights Act who will keep them in the country. And all the while, do you really think Keir Starmer will be reining back on legal net migration? Or do you think he's more likely to beat the Tories' miserable record during his first year in office? If he lasts that long before a hard left-wing coup of his party takes place. Remember, some on the left despise Starmer. That's why they're running a Stop Starmer campaign, claiming he's dodgy and untrustworthy. And with more likelihoods of strikes too. Anyway, the new EU scheme being put together around those 30,000 a year quotas that will replace the Dublin Accord includes the requirement for anyone entering the EU to claim asylum, they should do so in their first port of call. And there will also be rules within it that deter country hopping across the EU. Something that should, in time, reduce those coming to the French beaches in search of a €5,000 lift across the Channel. Now, Keir Starmer is off to see President Macron of France next week to sound him out, because everyone on the planet expects to see him getting into number 10 next year. So him getting ahead of the power curve appears to be the order of the day. And the only people who can stop the Tories and Labour in their tracks with these ruinous plans is the UK voter. And remember, the last Labour Party manifesto, the one for the 2019 general election, had a policy of handing over the right to vote in all elections to anyone over 16 who was resident in the country, including all foreigners. A vote for the Tories is a vote to ruin the country, and a vote for Labour is a vote to give the country away. This is all stuff from the open borders crowd who believe that every person on the planet has the absolute right to go anywhere they like and receive the full support of the country they choose. And our uniparty Westminster elite is well down that route, with both legal and illegal migration continually on the rise, and the Labour Party has no real intention of halting it. Otherwise, they would be talking about removing us from the ECHR and other international treaties that are being used to destroy our culture and economy. But he has not, so he will be as powerless as the Tories have been. His aim is not to stem the flow, but to regularise their entry, however many there are. And I doubt the traffickers will be that much affected anyway. But they will do what I said they would do. They are preparing to lay the ferries on. And punishing the Tories for what they've done by letting Labour in and rewarding them to do much the same thing, but worse, does not punish anyone other than ordinary people. Now, if you are a right of centre patriot, then the worst thing you can do is try to punish the Tories by voting Labour or for the Lib Dems, in the hope that the Tories will somehow be forced to change their ways. There's fat chance of that happening now. They are just WEF fodder. And the second worst is to gift Labour a victory by either spoiling your ballot paper or not voting. None of the above sends any other message than that the Lab Con Uniparty state is alive and kicking. And the Tories will feel safe that all those temporarily disaffected voters will come back. The best thing to do is find which of the smaller centre-right parties has the policies you want and vote for them. Because the more of those that are cast, the bigger the threat to the Tories, because you might not go back to them. At the end of the day, the more votes Starmer gets, the more of a mandate he will have to follow through hard on net zero and open borders, as well as tying us back into the EU with various little treaties and mechanisms. Don't give him the ammunition. Change your vote.